And I think it's just totally insane. And a lot of people look at this and totally roll their eyes.
It's this idea that we have to identify ourselves with who we are.
Conservatives had an absolute meltdown over Vice President Kamala Harris simply introducing herself in a courteous, kind way to a number of disability rights leaders. So I will get to the clip that got them all to freak out. Then I'll explain what went on in that clip, and I'll tell you my initial impressions of it. And we'll also get to, as I said, of course, the reaction from conservatives, including a couple of clips from Fox News. But before I get there, let's get to the clip that caused this meltdown. So this is Kamala Harris meeting with a number of disability rights leaders on the 32nd anniversary of the signing of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Here is her introduction that freaked conservatives out.
Good afternoon. I want to welcome these leaders for coming in to have this very important discussion about some of the most pressing issues of our time. I am Kamala Harris. My pronouns are she and her. I am a woman sitting at the table wearing a blue suit.
That's it. That's the clip that created an entire conservative media narrative that caused lawmakers to come out and mock her and freak out, and an entire day of conservatives using this clip, talking about this clip, attacking the left or Democrats over this clip, over Kamala Harris just using some basic manners. Now, look, to be honest, the first time I saw that clip was in this context. I saw it from this tweet where they just tweeted the clip out. Gave no context at all. So I was just wondering, why is she describing what color suit she's wearing? Isn't that kind of weird? But I go on to learn, she's meeting with disability rights advocates, including those who are visually impaired. And this is a part of what they advocate for. So to help them, understand who was talking at the time. So once you learn that, this entire thing is nothing. There is no narrative worth driving here. There's nothing worth talking about, but they found a way. Conservatives found a way. And of course, largely by ignoring that fact. But let me first address the pronouns aspect, which I guess people are still, I don't want to be talking at anybody, but are still learning. So, but first, to start with that conversation, Laverne Spicer here, who is a GOP congressional candidate in Florida, tweeted out, "There are no pronouns in the Constitution." Oh, good one, Laverne. Except the fact that the very first word in the Constitution is a pronoun. This tweet here by Seth Musket. We, the word we, is a pronoun. Look, on the pronoun part, before we get to the important aspect of the blue suit, on pronouns, this is a political leader hosting an event. She wants to be welcoming. She wants to be inclusive. She wants to make those who may be trans or non-binary feel welcomed in the conversation and not awkward if it comes to them bringing up their own pronouns. So yes, obviously Kamala Harris is a woman. No one's confused there. So it may seem, I don't know, to some as gratuitous, like why is she doing this? But again, the point is to be inclusive, to make others who are non-binary or trans, to make them feel inclusive about sharing their pronouns. That's it. This is not a big deal. Now, your everyday life, you're not likely going to need to do this when you're out of the mall shopping and buying groceries or whatever. This is not going to come up. It's not going to impact your life at all. And even if it did, even if you were in a situation where you felt like you had to do this, okay, just announce your pronouns. I'm he, him. Is that really hard? Like this entire conversation, their entire criticism is that Kamala Harris is simply being kind. That's it. She has the decency to include others and to have it, to use inclusive language. That's their entire criticism. Meanwhile, the right is literally stripping rights away from women. Like, it shows that there is, when it comes to criticisms of Democrats and especially the White House, I have a lot to work with because I have a criticism of the White House and Democrats not representing the working class, instead working hand in hand with corporations. So my criticisms come from that angle. But when you are in support of corporations and billionaires controlling everything, as the right wing is, they have very little to work with. So in lieu of having an actual real criticism, they have to use garbage like this and make an entire mountain out of nothing. This is just a conversation about human decency. This isn't even a culture war issue or a culture issue. This is simply an issue of manners. And they have made this into a major part of their rhetoric when it comes to attacking Democrats. It really is incredible. So let me get to some reactions here, or before the reactions from conservatives, just some more context in terms of the blue suit part of it. So DJ Judd here tweets out, VP Kamala Harris warns the Dobbs decision overturning Roe will uniquely impact Americans with disabilities. People with disabilities have higher rates of pregnancy complications and are in fact 11 times more likely to die before, during, and after childbirth. This is a fact. So that's part of the conversation here. Understand that there is a real criticism here that you can make. The real criticism to make here is that they're focusing on, these sorts of conversations and not actually doing enough with the power that they have to address the issue. So I have other videos breaking down a number of ways based on information from legal scholars about what Biden and Harris can do right now that they are not doing with their executive power alone, including offering to have abortion services on federal lands and protecting the people that would go to get those abortions. But they are not doing that. Paying for the travel of those that need to get abortions. All the money spent on wars overseas, and you can't protect people who want to get an abortion. You can't have this on federal lands. So understand there are real criticisms like that you can make. Criticizing her language and talking to disability rights advocates is not a criticism that is worth making, or that there's nothing there to criticize. Now, next tweet here. So in terms of the language, the American Council of the American Council of the Blind and similar groups have pushed for years for things like this type of verbal description to aid the visually impaired. That's one of the reasons there are audio description options on TVs now. So the right freaking out about this would be the equivalent of the right freaking out about there being closed captioning. Like, oh, the TVs now are too woke. Sony, Samsung, they've gone too woke because they have closed captioning built into the televisions. Like, that is, we're not far off, guys. Like, that is a criticism that they could be making. It wouldn't be any crazier than the one they're making here. But again, it goes to show you they have nothing to work with. There are real criticisms to make from a working class perspective, but they can't make them because they are pro-corporate, so they have to go to these made-up cultural war issues. So let me show you some conservative reaction to this. So of course, many headlines from conservative outlets like Washington Examiner here. Watch, Kamala Harris lists pronouns and describes outfit before event. Like, headline-worthy stuff. Daily Wire, Kamala Harris mocked after introducing herself with her pronouns. Quote, cringe meter dialed up to 100 for simply being courteous to others. Blaze Media, Vice President Harris announces her pronouns and provides a description of her attire at roundtable event. Again, notice how there is no context given in any of these descriptions. Next one here. Again, similar thing. This is how this is how the video has been largely shared, just quoting her and giving no context at all. RNC did that as well. Same thing. And Christina Summers here of AEI says if she would repudiate woke innatives and move towards a commonsensical centrism, she would be embraced by a majority of Americans. Instead, she just digs in. I'm going to blow some conservative minds right now. Kamala Harris is on the right. Yes, Kamala Harris is on the right. In terms of issues of healthcare, wages, taxes, climate change, the White House is to the right of public opinion. So if that's what matters in a democracy, and that's what should matter is public opinion, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are on the right. Not to mention other issues like marijuana. Like, we can go down the list. Practically every single issue, the White House is to the right of where people are in public polling. But these people see Kamala Harris being kind to others with an introduction And all of a sudden she's far left, woke, lefty, liberal, whatever the hell they say. Like, it's all bullshit. This is just an introduction. This has nothing at all to do with her politics. It's simply about common courtesy. And again, the best criticism here is that she uses stuff like this to mask the total inaction done by the White House. And on the point of Biden and the White House being too conservative, this is a great piece. I'll just link to below the video. Biden's presidency is sinking because of conservative Democrats, not the left. Don't blame progressives for Biden's failures. It's the party's right flank that abandoned the working class. Now, another reaction here from Myra Flores. This is a conservative in Texas for the 34th district, saying here, welcome to Biden's America, where Kamala Harris is more worried about pronouns than the real issues that are plaguing everyday Americans. This is her intro. This is her saying, hi, I'm Kamala Harris. Oh my God, you care more about introducing yourself than about the real issues plaguing Americans? Come the hell on. And by the way, in Texas, here's a real issue plaguing Americans in Texas. Texas governor calls on citizens to report parents of transgender kids for abuse. Governor Greg Abbott said those who fail to report instances of minors receiving gender-affirming medical care could face criminal penalties. So you have Texas going after trans kids. A lot of these red states going after trans kids and trans people in general. That is a real issue impacting real people's lives. But no, having some inclusive language in your introduction, that somehow is the bigger issue. Adam Kinzinger, one of the moderate, so-called moderate Republicans, someone that actually recognized that Trump lost the election. Quite a bar there. Quite the bar to meet to be considered a brilliant man. Here you have him tweeting out, if you ever wonder why the left still can't win elections despite the insanity of Trumpism, save stuff like this for reference later. You can get mad at me, but I'm not wrong. Yes, VP Kamala Harris being kind and courteous in her introduction is the reason why Democrats lose elections. Even though, by the way, they beat Trump with Joe Biden. But anyways, yes, this is why they lose. Because of kindness, because of manners, not because of inaction when it comes to not actually following through on their campaign promises, on them being largely with corporations along with the GOP as opposed to being with the working class. No, that's not important. What's important is Kamala Harris being kind to people at a round table. Lunatics, including people that are acknowledging the realities of the election, that Trump lost. You can still have those people be lunatics, as Kinzinger is here. Now, on what's important. So I've referenced this tweet in the past, but this happened just last week. It's important to reference it again in the showing you like what actually matters here. In the past week, so last week, 209 House Republicans voted against abortion rights, 205 against protecting interstate travel for reproductive care, 195 against protecting contraception access, and 157 against marriage equality. These are actual lawmakers using their power to try and stop more rights. Yet, this isn't worthy of the alarm bells for the right wing, because of course, they're in support of this, and they want to distract you by creating issues out of absolutely nothing. On that point, let's get to Lara Trump here. So Lara Trump was on Fox News, and here is what she said about this Kamala Harris clip.
Yeah, just when you think that we've hit rock bottom, Kamala Harris comes out and shows you that you can actually go lower. There is a lower rung to all of it. And, you know, I think a lot of people have asked themselves, are we regressing, Sean, as a society in America? Well, here is the answer to that question. Sadly, it feels like yes, if you watch this video of Kamala Harris. And I think it's just totally insane. And a lot of people look at this and totally roll their eyes because to your point, Sean, this is what the people in the White House are focusing on: pandering and pronouns. If I'm Xi Jinping of China and I'm looking to overtake America as the superpower of the world, and I see a video like this, as absurd as this is, from the Vice President of the United States, man, I am pretty sure that I'm on the fast track to overtaking America, and sadly, sooner rather than later.
Just the grandiose language. It's so ridiculous. Yes, China's going to eat our lunch now. Now that there's a clip out with Kamala Harris saying that she's Kamala Harris and she's wearing a blue suit and she is a she. Oh my God. Oh my God. China right behind. Watch out. China's taking over. Like, what is that? What even is the point that she's trying to make? How does China play into this? Oh my God. Now, I will give her some credit. The White House does use inclusive language to distract. I said that earlier. This is a distraction mechanism. They're very inclusive and kind in the way they're approaching these issues, talking about these issues, but in terms of actually delivering the help that people need, they're nowhere. So that is a fair criticism, but not from her perspective. Like, she doesn't care about that. I care about that. But again, it's amazing how they have to generate this into a massive freaking issue as if it matters at all. Now let me get to a reaction. Before I get to the next reaction from Fox, I just want to show you, what's gone on with Lara Trump. Dog rescue charity linked to Lara Trump funneling money into Donald Trump's pocket. The Big Dog Ranch Rescue has spent as much as $1.9 million at his properties in recent years and is spending $225,000 more at Mar-a-Lago this weekend. So that was from back in 2021. So Lara Trump funneling money into Donald Trump, using her name, their name, to funnel all of this money into their own bank accounts. It really is amazing that this kind of stuff, this is normal. Like, this is what is considered normal in Washington. Using pronouns, very weird, very abnormal. But corruption, perfectly normal, perfectly fine. All right, let's get to the second clip here. This is Fox News host Martha McCallum talking to a couple of people on her show. And even she essentially admits here that they have generated this story out of nothing.
Kevin, has this gone too far? I mean, there's being courteous and respecting people with disabilities and other issues or other, preferences. But, I think most Americans look at that and say, I'm sorry, what?
I think, Martha, most Americans think this is a distraction even going down this route. As you rightly point out, it was an event marking the historic Americans with Disabilities Act. There were visually impaired individuals there that only see color, that only see shapes, and she was being proactive in using that terminology to be effective in that room with those individuals.
But I think it smacks of, sort of not focusing on where people's priorities necessarily are, and it's not the way that most people, I think, probably address each other around the country, Mercy, and I think it might make them look a little bit out of touch with where people are.
Look, when our military is focused on teaching more about pronouns and misgendering than focusing on military readiness, we have a problem in this country. It is really a distraction, Kevin, as you've mentioned, that with the idea of pronouns, this idea that we have to identify ourselves with who we are.
This idea that you have to identify yourself with who we are. By the way, using pronouns in that sentence. You see them struggling to make a point here. Because she has to know. This is Mercedes Schlapp at the end here. She has to know this is all just bullshit. So you're creating an issue out of absolutely nothing. Talking about how, the military can't be ready now because they're too focused on their pronouns. Like, as if they're replacing war games with a day of, LGBTQ exclusivity, or inclusivity. Like, what is the point that they're trying to make? We're talking about two words, he, him, she, her, they, them. 2 words that has replaced our military readiness. No logic, nothing, makes no sense, all a complete distraction. And you see Martha McCallum there essentially admit, Kamala Harris, being courteous, but most Americans see that and then they're turned off because they're watching you. If you were telling them, hey, this is not a big deal, there's no reason to be turned off by this, then they may think differently. But because you have worked for decades to brainwash people to care about things that do not matter at all, then yeah, a large part of your audience is likely bothered by that clip for no reason. It's always amazing when the media freaks out about, like the mainstream press freaks out about how people at home are feeling when they themselves are the media, making them feel about the issues the way they want them to feel. Like, that's your job. Tell people what the reality is. But of course, that isn't Fox's job. But the job of the media is to, discuss these issues in an objective way, is to speak truth to power, be the voice of the people. And none of these networks do that. But of course, places like Fox, like Newsmax, they're off in the deep end when it comes to these issues of just common courtesy as well.